Welcome back to another FPL video and podcast. This will be the best wildcard team for Gameweek 22. There is a quick turnaround once again, but all the content will be covered on this channel. The transfer tips is already available to you, and the team selection is headed your way. And keep your eyes peeled for the deadline stream on Saturday. And if this video gets to over 200 likes, there will be a reaction stream either today or tomorrow. So keep your eyes peeled for all those pieces of content by smashing the like button of this video and subscribing to the channel. Our aim is to get this to over 200 likes overall and to keep on pushing towards new goals. We already hit 30k and 31,000 very recently, so thank you very much for your support. All the links are in the description for Twitter, Instagram, Patreon, Blue Sky, the channel memberships, the Discord server, FPL League Drafthound, as well as Spotify. Without further ado, let's jump straight into it. My squad value is 104.3 million, and if I remove every single player from this squad, I would have 102.1 million in terms of pure spending power, but it will vary for everybody depending on when you bought some of these options, but I will discuss some alternatives as we go along. Let's start off with the two goalkeepers. I tend to favour having a cheap backup rather than having two rotating 4.5 million goalkeepers. Everyone can play FPL the way they want to, but there is one or two options in this position that stand out from the rest. Matt Sells is the high-scoring goalkeeper in FPL, and Nottingham Forest are going from strength to strength. They're third in the Premier League table at the moment, and Sells is just 3 points shy of the 100-point mark. Only Jordan Pickford has more bonus points amongst goalkeepers. And I have to say, Matt Sells is a great investment even from Gameweek 22 when he faces Southampton at home. Then you've got some tricky games like Bournemouth and Brighton, but Nottingham Forest are very surprising. They can keep clean sheets when you least expect them to. They did at Anfield earlier this season, and despite a few blips around 2 months ago, they have really come back strong. They won 6 consecutive games before that Liverpool match where they still got a decent result, and I think Sells is one of the best goalkeepers in the game. He's arguably number one, but the alternative is Jordan Pickford because Everton double in Gameweek 24. I think if you are investing in this position on the wildcard or with free transfers, don't look beyond Sells or Pickford, the two high-scoring goalkeepers in the game. If you have a preference between those two, let me know down the comment section below. I still think Raya is third, but Arsenal haven't kept a clean sheet in quite a while, and I think having one Arsenal defender is probably more than enough at this moment in time. But the backup option remains Fabianski. In isolation, Dubravka is a better option, and he went up in price overnight to 4.3 million, just like Sells did to 5 million. But I think this goalkeeper pairing is enough, and whether you go for Sells or Pickford, you would start them week in, week out. Crystal Palace were fortunate to keep a clean sheet against Leicester City. They considered 3 big chances, but they got the job done in that 2-0 victory. And Daniel Munoz has so many different avenues for points when you look at a defender. He's got the goal potential, an eye for an assist, and he can keep the occasional clean sheet from time to time. And I just think he offers good value with excellent fixtures for the next 6 game weeks. And even beyond that, Crystal Palace are near the top of the fixture difficulty rating, but at a similar price you've also got Anthony Robinson, and you might want to go for him this week and then switch to Munoz in a couple of weeks time. But you also don't want to book in too many transfers, and it depends on your team situation. Do you have 1, 2, 3 or possibly more free transfers at your disposal? And with the wildcard this season, it doesn't reset your transfers to 1 again, and you can actually keep the free transfers from before. So using the wildcard and then having a lot of free transfers available puts you in a very strong position for the long term. Next up, I'm going for a premium defender, and it's going to be Gabriel, who only got a 1 point against Tottenham Hotspur, but he was awarded man of the match, and he played a pivotal role in Dominic Solanke's own goal, which was really crucial for the Gunners because they've had a tough week, losing to Newcastle, also dropping out of the FA Cup on penalties against Manchester United, and Son actually gave Spurs the lead, so it wasn't looking too good for the Gunners until Gabriel came up clutch with that moment. And in general, he's such a threat in both boxes, but in terms of attacking potential, you aren't going to find much better amongst defenders. Let's now go to other options here, and he doubles in Gameweek 24. He might not have the same assist threat as a Trent Alexander-Arnold, but Konate can score the occasional goal, and if he can stay fit, I think that's a massive boost for Liverpool. He is one of the best defenders in the Premier League, especially this season, and he offers great value at 5.1 million. So it's a nice differential to have in your FPL setup, and I'd still cover Liverpool defensively, but I have to say this, if you are planning to use the assistant manager chip on Arne Slot in Gameweek 24, I would move Konate to somebody like Robinson instead, and leave that Liverpool spot open for the manager. So just bear that in mind. If you aren't planning to use that chip though and want a Liverpool triple up, I would go for Konate or Trent Alexander-Arnold, which is dependent on your budget and a few other circumstances. But next up is going to be Lewis Hall, the most informed defender in FPL. He has been brilliant. Only Salah and Isak have outscored him in the last 6 game weeks, and I started this season with Lewis Hall. I talked him up a lot during the summer, and it took him a while to get going, but he has been one of the outstanding left-backs in the Premier League this season. The other one probably being Anthony Robinson, to be fair. But Lewis Hall is still a good investment. You might have missed a lot of his big returns. I think there will be a drop-off, but I still see Newcastle keeping clean sheets, Hall getting the occasional assist and bonus points, and Newcastle are the most informed team in the country with 5 consecutive Premier League victories, and they're going very strong in the cup competitions. And now let's go for another player who doubles in Game Week 24, who's very cheap and offers you a nice entry point into that Everton defence. That's going to be Mykolenko, who was also in my team earlier this season, and Everton lost their first match under David Moyes against Aston Villa, but I still think they'll keep several clean sheets in the next couple of weeks, but maybe there will be a drop-off defensively compared to Sean Dyche. That's something we need to assess, but we can't really judge too much based on one match against one of the best teams in the Premier League with Aston Villa. But overall, with this defensive line, you're getting double game weeks with Konate, Mykolenko, attacking potential from Munoz, Gabriel and Lewis Hall, not to mention several clean sheets will also be on the horizon. There are plenty of decent budget midfielders in the game this season. Morgan Rogers is one of the better ones alongside Amad Diallo, Iwobi, and I'd also put the likes of Ismail Assar into that category potentially, Semenyo, but Rogers is still my favourite. He got the assist for Ollie Watkins, which gave Aston Villa 3 points, and they've been in decent form over the last 5 matches overall, and Rogers has been very consistent. He's kind of fixture-proof, that's the way I see him, and he also gets returns away from home. You could also look at the signing of Daniel Malen and think it's going to be quite risky with Rogers, and it could lead to him dropping out of certain games or being subbed off earlier. That remains to be seen, but I still think Morgan Rogers will start the vast majority of games for Aston Villa. There'll only be the odd benching here and there for rotation and looking at the other cup competitions like the Champions League. But Morgan Rogers for me is an excellent choice. Even against Arsenal, I wouldn't mind starting him in that particular game. I could see him having a decent match, and he played very well in the reverse fixture back in Game Week 2. But let's go to the more interesting options, and every single choice here will be much more expensive from now on. And the first one I'll highlight is the most expensive player in this position, and that's Mohamed Salah, who blanked for the first time since Game Week 7. He has dipped recently in terms of performances against Nottingham Forest, Manchester United, and also Tottenham Hotspur in the Carabao Cup, but he still had a great run in the Premier League, and he is the player of the season so far by some distance. It's going to take some stopping for him to not win that award by the end of the campaign, and he's still one of the front runners for the captaincy in Game Week 22 and also in the foreseeable future. A lot of people who haven't used the triple captaincy so far will be aiming to using it in Game Week 24 for Liverpool's double against Bournemouth and Everton away. Not the best in terms of fixtures admittedly, but Salah is fixture proof, that goes without saying. And I have to say, the next player is also fixture proof, and that's going to be Cole Palmer, who's got back-to-back double-digit returns, and his ceiling is always so high. I think he's a fantastic option against Wolves for the captaincy, and I would actually rank him in the top 3 once again, just like I did for Game Week 21. But any wildcard team in the next couple of weeks will likely have Salah and Palmer. I think they're essential to building the optimum 15-man squad on the wildcard, and if you don't have them, but you want to get them in using free transfers, I'd highly suggest you do so, even for a -4 hit. But let's now go to 2 midfielders who are mid-price and they've been in excellent form, one of which is Anthony Gordon, who has been outstanding across all competitions, and it seems like he can't stop scoring or assisting. He got a 9-pointer against Wolves, and it was inevitable, and I'm looking to bring him in, and I keep saying this every single week, and I just haven't been able to find a way to do it, or I've been a bit too cautious because of my recent disastrous moves in December. But Gordon is still worth investment right now, and he's the second best Newcastle asset behind Isak. I think Lewis Hall is third, but you could make a case for that being, a switch between second and third. Isak is undoubtedly number 1. There's no denying that. But Gordon is a solid midfielder, and he's an upgrade on Diaz, Jota, who double in Game Week 24, but they won't offer the consistency of minutes and returns as Anthony Gordon will. But next up is arguably one of the best assets in this position, and that's Brian Mbeumo. If you've got a bit more money, you could go to Bruno Fernandes as a short-term placeholder and go back to Mbeumo around Game Week 23 or 24 maybe you wait until later in the season, but it's entirely up to you how many transfers you want to book in, and it also depends on how many transfers you have available. I certainly wouldn't suggest booking in too many if you've only got 1 or 2 free transfers available, which they don't reset after the wildcard, but you also have to be mindful about that with future planning. But that's the midfield. It's very similar to what I've talked about in recent videos. I think Bruno Fernandes would be the main standout that doesn't feature in this position, and the likes of Diallo, Iwobi, Semenyo would also be shouts for that budget midfielder role. Cody Gakpo remains a good option in FPL, especially with that double in Gameweek 24. That's the main reason why he features in this wildcard team. You can go for Jean-Philippe Mateta, who has scored in back-to-back games for Crystal Palace, and you've also got the likes of Raul Jimenez, who offers good value at around 5.6 million. Not to mention, there are 2 forwards who are kind of locked into this team, so I'm not going to mention them now, but you've got Matheus Cunha, who has been brilliant all season, and he faces Chelsea away next. That's a fixture where he scored a hat-trick last season, so I don't think he'll get to those sort of levels this weekend, but he can score or assist, maybe even get a brace, because Cunha is fixture-proof. And you've also got other forwards here and there that are worth considering, like Dominic Solanke, but I think Gakpo would be my favourite at around this price tag. Mateta is narrowly behind, I have to say. It's just that double that leans me towards Gakpo. But with any Liverpool attacker, rotation is a possibility. And could you guarantee for sure that Diaz, Jota or Gakpo will start both games in Double Gameweek 24? The answer is no, but I think Gakpo has a better chance than the other two. And if Diogo Jota gets more starts over the coming weeks in preparation for that double, I think he becomes my second favourite Liverpool attacker. But it's also a question of who do you replace in the midfield? Is it Gordon, Mbeumo? It's certainly not going to be Salah or Palmer. So that's going to be a bit difficult to manage. And I think Gakpo is a better option because of that reason. You've got few alternatives up front. So I think with Jota's lack of minutes and also his poor form of late, especially because he's just coming off the back of an injury, that is something that needs to be weighed up. And Gakpo does make it into this Liverpool triple up. But if you are looking to use the assistant managership, as I mentioned earlier, I'd be looking to drop Konate potentially, and you could even make the case for Gakpo. But Salah is going nowhere. That goes without saying. That could be a very, very ambitious play to go against him when Liverpool double in Gameweek 24. But let's go to the more nailed-on options in this forward line, and that includes Chris Wood, who got another return against Liverpool. That's his first goal against them, by the way, in his career, but he got a 9-pointer, and this season has been outstanding from him. He's only 1 goal shy from his best ever Premier League tally in a single season, and he's easily going to beat that unless there's a massive drop-off. You could see him getting to 20 to 25 goals in this season. I think 22 is where he'll end up, but let's wait and see how far my prediction is. Let's now go to the final forward, and is there even any need to go into this? Probably not, but Isak was brilliant against Wolves. He got 16 points. He scores goals in all sorts of ways. He's going to be linked to many clubs in the summer once again, and it's no real surprise why Newcastle are looking to get 150 million for him, but he is the best forward in the game. It has been the case for quite a while now. He has scored in 8 consecutive Premier League matches, and he's actually closing in on the all-time Premier League record set by Jamie Vardy with 11 games in a row scoring a goal. So let's see if Isak can match that record, but looking at the upcoming fixtures, I think he has a great chance. There is no debate whatsoever. Sells in goal over Fabianski is child's play, but you can also make a case for Jordan Pickford over Fabianski. That will be tougher this week as Everton host Tottenham Hotspur, and their record against the Lily Whites is quite mixed bag. But I think if you are looking to go for Jordan Pickford, you could make a case for starting Fabianski this week and then just starting Pickford week in, week out. And I think the main appeal with the England #1 is the double game week in 24. But Pickford is fixture proof. He has been brilliant this season with 2 penalty saves, 10 bonus points, and Sells is the only goalkeeper to have outscored him. The backline would include Munoz, Gabriel, Hoare, and a midfield of Palmer, Salah, Mbeumo and Gordon is extremely strong with a front line of Chris Wood, Gakpo and Isak. And on the bench you've got Fabianski, Rodgers, Konate and Mikalenko. But I also want to show you a few differences or changes you could make to your liking. So one of them is Pickford in for Sells if you just want to add more double Game Week 24 options to your team. And if you're also thinking about Game Week 29 and the possible blanks, that's something else to weigh up as well. But I think Sells is just a great long-term option irrespective of the lack of doubles or blanking in Game Week 29, for example. And in the defensive line, you could also go for Robinson instead of Konate. And especially if you're looking to go for Arne Slot in double Game Week 24, I think that would work very well. And if you were to do this sort of thing, I'd start Robinson over Daniel Munoz in this setup. And in the midfield, if you've got enough money, you could do something like Mbumo to Bruno Fernandes. But in my case, I'd actually not have enough money to make the changes I just showed you and also bring in Bruno. But for those with even more money at your disposal, that is another possibility for you. And in order to make it work with my setup, maybe Gakpo downgraded to Raul Jimenez is another option that some people might consider, especially if you're really struggling for the funds. But overall, it's a very strong squad. For the captaincy, it's between Salah, Palmer and Isak, but maybe an outside shout for Chris Wood is certainly on the cards, but I'd probably stick to one of the big three, as I like to call them in FPL at the moment. We had Saka earlier this season, now it's Isak. I'd currently favour Cole Palmer, that is my thinking. I also said this with Isak for most of the week, and I ended up going against him for the captaincy, which was a mistake of mine, but at least Salah was jinxed, hey, so something came off it at least. Let's now head over to Drafthound and see what they're suggesting for the best wildcard team, but I'd highly recommend you check out FPL.team as well for planning in future weeks. These are the player rankings for Drafthound over the next 3 game weeks. Salah, Isak, Palmer, Trent, Diaz, Foden, Gakpo, Haaland, Gordon and McAllister complete the top 10, and this is my personal favourite tool that they have to offer. There is a link in the description below. If you haven't signed up already, give it a go. I think you'll have a great time using the website. It's very intuitive, great graphics, and a lot of different tools at your disposal, which are all unlocked by signing up for £2 per week. And a lot of you have already used my link and talked about how great this website is. It's one of the best in the FPL community, so I'd highly suggest that you give it a go. Thank you very much for watching this video and listening to this podcast. If you enjoyed it or found it useful, then be sure to smash the like button and subscribe if you're new. I aim is to get this to the 200 likes and to keep on pushing towards 32,000 subscribers and beyond. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, and check all the links in the description below for my Patreon and the championships, for early access to my videos, amongst many other perks. The Discord server, FPL League, Drafthound, Spotify, and Blue Sky can also be found in the description. I'll see you very soon for more FPL and news fantasy content, which will return next week.